Welcome back. I am Danielle.
I'm Caitlin.
And together we're our time of the month.
And we're going to be talking about books today. Some of mine are library books. Some of mine are Danielle's books. And we have been reading. Me less so this summer. Unfortunately, I sort of fell out of love with it. But I managed to crush some books while I was on vacation recently.
Awesome.
And then you have been a reading fiend.
I have been a reading fiend. I think I've read 6 books this month so far.
Wow. What number are you on now?
43.
You're going to make it to 50 so easy.
I know.
Wow. Oh my god, you're going to blow past it.
Because I'll be here for so long.
Yeah, mine was 25. I think I can still hit it, but it's going to be a little bit of a challenge.
Like Caitlin said, we both set goals every year. I think we're both going to crush them, which will be a first for me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it'll be a first for me too. I've always gotten close, but never this close. Okay, so the first book I have did come from our local library. If you are a reader, I implore you to buy books selectively and from small businesses, but if you want to have more books but not pay for them, go to the library.
I went on a binge of our old posts on Instagram when we first started our time of the month, and one of my very first posts was about using the public library, and that was over 5 years ago. I've always had a library card in every town I've ever lived in. Even when I was in college and I had a college library, I was like, nope, not good enough. I want the public library card, please.
Sorry.
Wow. Why are you so sassy? So yeah, use the library. You can rent e-reader books on there, which is what I've been doing a lot of.
And audiobooks and just all sorts of stuff. Yep. So this one is called Mother May I by Jocelyn Jackson. You've read a bunch of stuff by Jocelyn Jackson, haven't you?
Never.
No?
You read Never Have I Ever and said you didn't love it, so I've just never really picked up anything by her.
This was a bit of a weird one. I mean, just from the get-go, I'll sort of scan until the day she awakens and sees a witch peering into her bedroom window.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So it's, she's living a perfect life, and then all of a sudden this is derailed by seeing this witch out the window. It goes into her background growing up in rural Georgia, and also, I believe, growing up poor and then finding herself in a completely different socioeconomic class as an adult. So it's a lot of complex feelings. I was confused by it because they called this woman that she sees out the window a witch. And so I'm like, is it mystical or is it just regular people? What's happening? I read the whole thing, and
is she just an old woman?
Yeah.
Okay. How many stars?
I think I gave it 3. I think I would have given it somewhere between a 3 and a 3.5 if there were increments.
I will say the cover says revenge doesn't wait for permission, so to me I would be hooked as well. Like, yeah, I would want to read it.
She also just does all of the things where you're like, no, don't do that,
yeah,
do the other thing.
I hate when you're yelling at a character.
Yes, and I feel like that kind of happened a lot with this. It did also like dust in a couple other like social issues, which I thought was weird because I feel like you're just gonna touch on it but then not actually go into it. But yeah, I mean, it was a quick read. I do remember sort of like plowing through it, which sometimes that's just nice.
I agree. Especially if you read a lot of heavy stuff, which I feel like is all I do. I only have one physical book to show you. A lot of the books that I'm talking about I rented from the Libby app on my Kindle. Love that app. It's amazing, and you can place holds and do all the things. So I really love Kristen Hanna. She's one of my favorite authors. She writes a lot of historical fiction, which I really love. And you can tell that she does her due diligence when she's researching a particular era or event that she's writing about. So I finally read The Nightingale, and I feel like I'm probably the last person on earth to read it, but it was every part as beautiful and sad and heartbreaking and just wonderful that I wanted it to be. 5 out of 5 stars. Would give it more if I could. It's about 2 sisters who are living in France during the start of World War II, when everyone is thinking, oh, my husband's just gonna go away for a couple of weeks. The Germans are gonna surrender. It's gonna be great. See you in a couple weeks, babe. The book focuses predominantly on the viewpoint of those 2 sisters and what it was like to be a woman during that time. The oldest sister has a daughter. Her husband is obviously not home, and one of the Nazis that has kind of stationed in their town takes up residence in their house. And so they have to live with this man, and a lot of stuff goes down. Her sister works as like a propaganda distributor for the, for the good guys. And because she's a woman, she kind of flies under the radar. She gets put in a concentration camp at one point, and it's just, the book is just so beautiful, but like I said, heartbreaking and historically accurate, because there were times that I found myself Googling things to see if it really did happen that way. Like, I did not realize how occupied Paris was by the Germans at one point. I can't recommend it enough. It's actually going to become a movie with the Johnson sisters, not Dakota, Fanning.
Oh,
What's
Ellie and Dakota?
Yeah. It's Johnson? Fanning. The Fanning sisters. That's who it is. Yes.
Oh, because you were thinking of Dakota.
Johnson.
Dakota
Yeah.
Johnson, Dakota Fanning, yeah.
So Dakota Fanning and her sister are going to be the sisters. And I'm really not like a book to movie adaptation fan, but I feel like this is going to be good.
I hope so. So the next book that I have, didn't actually finish, and I didn't realize that until literally this morning, because I was like, oh, it's still on my nightstand. I didn't realize, and it's because I never finished reading it, but I'll still talk about it. So it is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I actually did like this. It tells the story mostly of multiple siblings. Is that right? Yeah, multiple siblings that are living in Malibu in the 80s, but it also flashes back to their childhood. It goes into the history of their mother and their father. I think it even really goes back even into their mom's childhood as well. But it's just really interesting because it ties all of these siblings together through their story. It's all building towards this annual end of summer party that one of the siblings holds every year. But it goes into so much more than that. Like, there's sort of one storyline going, but then it branches off a bunch and then comes back. So I will definitely finish reading this. There's family drama that is developing and like has not come out into light yet, which I'm intrigued on how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I don't even want to say anything about it because I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, it's the brothers. That's what I'm waiting for. But yeah, so I will finish this. I'm halfway through. I'm liking this so much more than Daisy Jones and the Six. I think it's just because Daisy Jones and the Six was written in an interview format, and it just made me have a really hard time building out the characters in my mind. And I think that's really fun for my imagination.
I agree.
Where the interview format didn't give me that, and so everyone recommended that we listen to that as an audiobook, so maybe one day I will get back to that. So I'll keep you updated if for some reason all of a sudden I hate it.
I think I ended up giving it a 5.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because it was one of those books where the ending happened and you know what happens, but maybe it's not what you wanted. And I sometimes like that. I sometimes like when an author doesn't just like put a beautiful tidy bow on everything.
I feel like I've been reading a lot of books that don't have a beautiful bow on it.
Really? Maybe that's the
trend
except
now. The next one that I'm going to talk about.
So this is a book by Sherry Lapena. I'm so sorry. It's called Not a Happy Family. My first book by this author, it was such a fast read. I think I read it in like a day and a half because it was just so speedy. Again, with the sibling rivalry and drama. There are 3 siblings, 2 parents, very well-to-do family that lives in Massachusetts? New York, upstate New York. The family has, as you can probably tell here, a beautiful mansion. All of the children are grown adults, some more successful than others. But regardless, the dad pretty much hates all of them and is super rude to them at their family Easter dinner. The book opens with the mom and the dad dead and murdered in the home. And so you're figuring out who did it, who done it.
Okay.
And this was one of those books where I was constantly guessing who done it.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Constantly, because I was like, every single one of these siblings seems like a pretty good candidate, as does this housekeeper, as does this other person, X, Y, and Z.
I like that you're reevaluating through the whole book. Like, normally I feel like I pick someone and I'm like, that's who did it.
Yep. The entire time I was doing that. And so each of them lies to the police to try to protect one another or their spouse, and it's just like, wow, drama. Not a happy family. They are very miserable. I will just tell you that, every single one of them. So this isn't a book that's like a feel-good romance novel, but it is a good suspense novel, and I think you'll like it. It's not like a literary marvel. I'm not giving it 5 stars, but I gave it 4 because it was very entertaining. It was very fast, and like I said, it kept me guessing, and I think that definitely says something about a book. She is the author of The Couple Next Door, and I see that all the time on lists, but I haven't read that. I know that's a really popular one by her.
Yeah, well,
there you
thank
go.
you.
Sure.
The next one I actually don't have because I have passed it along to my sister. People We Meet on Vacation.
Oh yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. So this one I read while I was on vacation. I have to say it's like a perfect vacation read. It was very quick. I think it was done in 2 days. Have you already talked about this one in a previous? Okay, so I'm not gonna do like a whole thing, but it's two best friends who have known each other since college, and they are sort of opposites, and then every year, no matter where their lives have taken them, they reconnect and travel for 1 week a year, and they have the best time, and then they have a falling out, unfortunately, and they don't travel, and they... So this was kind of the part that I had a hard time with so the woman, because it's a man and a woman that are the two best friends, and the female best friend, her name is Poppy. She's realizing that she's unhappy, and one of her friends says, well, sometimes the best way to figure out what makes you happy is to do exactly what you would do when you would lose anything else and retrace your steps. And so she was like, well, when was the last time you were happy? Oh. And this woman is like, when I was with Alex, it was the best time of my life. And I was like, bitch, you're in love with him.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, so the friend's mom is a therapist, and was the one that gave her the... But anyway, she's like...
Yeah, that's very obvious from early on.
Yeah, like it's not even a spoiler because it's in the first 10 pages or something like that. And I just remember kind of eye-rolling because I was like, okay, I wonder what's gonna happen. And so, I mean, you know, and it's all, but it's a beach read, so like you kind of are in it for that whole thing. But yeah, it was so kind of like over the top that it was kind of cringy to me, but it was still good. It was, you know, it was a page turner for sure. It was fun and cute and definitely a little bit different than that sort of book. Oh, here's what it was.
What?
The two best friends, Poppy and Alex, their banter was actually funny.
Yes, they are funny.
I laughed out loud at least twice where they were talking back and forth, and it just reminded me of like times that I've had a really good rapport with either like a literal friend or like people I've dated, where it's like witty and clever and quick, and it's like kind of mean to each other but not really. It's obviously, they
have like inside jokes and stuff that you then learn about because they talk about the other trips that they've taken, which I really liked that part.
Yeah, I think the other part that I really liked is at one point she's like, I think she says like, you're so weird, and he's like, I'm only weird with you, I can only be weird with you. And that's like something we say to each other, where like we're always weird, but there's a special little part of weirdness that like other people we cannot show to other people. But so I got that, like I definitely got that connection.
Speaking of unbelievable plot lines, I recently read a book by Colleen Hoover called November 9. Colleen Hoover, I only thought of her as like a thriller writer because Verity was the first book I ever read by her, and that is like a whoa mindfuck book. Read it if you haven't.
Did I read it?
This girl Fallon meets this guy Ben, and she is living in California, as is he. He's going to school. She is going to be moving to New York City tomorrow to start a new life. They meet each other, they quickly realize that they've got a great rapport and some kind of connection is happening, you know, like sparks fly, whatever kind of thing. They make a deal that they will meet on the same November 9th every year for 5 years to determine if they're meant to be together, because Fallon's mom tells her to not make any life important decisions before she's 23. And so she's like, okay, I'm 18. I'm not going to make any decisions about who I want to be with until I'm 23. So if you can last these 5 years and only see me 1 day a year for 5 years, then we'll try to make it work. He's a writer. And so they pitch this idea to one another that he will write their love story, essentially. It's so unbelievable, but you have to read it.
How many nights does it take for them to fuck?
2.
Oh, okay.
Why are you doing that? Stop fucking reading it. For some reason, the book isn't even filled with any other days other than the November 9th.
Oh, wow. So that fills out hundreds of pages?
Yeah, it's like 400 pages of just November 9ths.
5 of them?
5 of them. A lot of stuff happens to each of them. She is a survivor. She's a burn victim. Half of her body was like very horrifically burned when she was a teenager, and she was a child actress at the time. It ended her career, unfortunately, because looks are so important in Hollywood and no one would hire her. So she decides that she wants to start doing like off-Broadway plays, learns that's really not for her, and what she thrives in is teaching acting. So she does that. He is in school and is developing a manuscript. The book has been optioned, and she doesn't know any of this, and one day she finds the manuscript and she starts reading it, and you learn that Maybe their happenstance meeting wasn't so happenstance. Maybe he knew who she was when he approached her. And so she learns all of that when she's reading the book when she's like 23 years old. I don't know, just read it. Just read it and let me know what you think.
Okay.
Highly unbelievable, but still very, very entertaining.
Yeah.
There were times when I was like, fuck you and fuck you. But also like, happy for you, whatever.
Happy for you. She's not happy for you.
At one point, he starts fucking his dead brother's wife. And I was like, the book can end now.
Do we support this relationship? Yeah.
You're up.
Oh, the last thing I have is The Last Thing He Told Me.
Oh my God.
By Laura Dave. She's also the author of 800 Grapes, which I had never heard of.
Me either.
So this was a New York Times bestseller. This person describes it as a thrilling roller coaster. I don't think I would go that far. I also read this one on vacation, and I will say it's much easier for me to read anything on vacation because I will just sit down for like 2 solid hours or more and just like really get through it.
Yep.
I liked it. I didn't love it. This is based on primarily a woman who has married a man. She's actually a wood turner, which I thought was kind of an interesting.
I loved that that was her job.
Me too. She's a wood turner, and she marries a man named Owen, and then he has a teenage daughter, and it really starts out with the bulk of the book being about how his teenage daughter like can't stand her.
Yeah.
And that she's trying so hard to sort of win her over because they are now married and living in the same home.
On a boat, right?
Oh yeah, on a boat. On a boat.
A water house or
In
something.
Sausalito. And he is a great dad, and he is someone that was like working in a startup and
Has a huge penis.
and a big career. And then he disappears. She is at home and someone knocks on her door, and it's a young child, and she's like, "Hey, are you Owen's wife?" and hands her a note that just says, "Protect her." Protect her, period. And then the daughter comes home and says that her dad left her a note and a bag of like $600,000 in cash. And then it comes out that the startup that the dad works for is now being investigated by like the FBI and the FCC and like all this different stuff because of embezzlement and fraud and all of these other like white collar crimes that you hear about all the time. And so he's disappeared, and so everyone automatically assumes that he's complicit in all of these horrible things with the company, but she is convinced, I think her name's Hannah, she is convinced that it had to be more than that, and so she decides to be like a super sleuth and try and like track down what in his past could have possibly made it so that he ran away, because she's like, he's not a coward, I don't think he would have like been a part of this. Everyone calls her an idiot because they're like, one, you had to have known what your husband was doing, and then also like, how did you not know that he was like this and that he was doing all this? So it was like a whole thing. And she like takes her stepdaughter along on this journey of like trying to find their husband and father, and I just sort of was like, ain't nobody doing this.
Didn't they go to Texas?
They went to Austin, yeah.
And they like tracked down a church, and then they went to that bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I liked it, but
I did like it. I will say I did like it. But again, it's just like
Detective Woodturner is on the
it was like
prowl.
20 years before that, and they like, yeah, they go to like an arena, a football arena that their daughter has like a vague memory of being at,
Like
and
a flower girl or something.
Yes, they implore this old woman who works at the church to pull out every record of every wedding on a game day at this arena, and like by chance some old woman happens to remember that it's not even a real football game, it's
like a practice.
Yeah, it's whatever. And I'm just like,
It's
no.
whatever.
First of all, she finds out all this fucking information, one, before the police, and two, within like 72 hours.
Yeah.
She's like pulling memories from her relationship with this man, and I'm like, you would have never remembered that small detail he mentioned. Also,
I would like to think though, if Mike was in this situation, that would be me and you. We would be on the fucking prowl. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
No, because I think we'd spend at least the first 24 hours blitzed. Because it would be like stress. We'd be self-medicating.
We would have to hire a driver. Can you please help me find my husband?
If you ever want to be our getaway driver or our detective driver, leave a comment down below.
For sure.
But yeah, it just all happened so fast. I will also say this was a Reese's book club book. I like Reese Witherspoon, but I'm also a little like question mark about Reese Witherspoon. I don't know if I'm like all the way there for it. And sometimes I think when I find books that she has recommended, they're really popular.
Basic.
Yeah.
They're basic.
They're the pumpkin spice latte of books.
Yes.
They aren't enough for me sometimes.
They're fluff.
Yeah, but
They're the books that I mix in between all the rape and murder.
yes, I do prefer just something a little bit more suspenseful, something that's harder to guess, something that's like I knew kind of right away what the fuck, not all the other shit, but like the crux of it, the really big mystery. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's just they mentioned
Seen
one
this before.
They mentioned one thing, and I was like, oh, okay, this is probably what he did.
This is where we're going.
And then like the rest of it was like, oh, I did not see it going there, mainly because it was a little ludicrous.
Far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my last one. What a mindfuck journey this was.
5 stars.
I'm going to read you the synopsis. It's called The Quiet Girl by S.F. Kosa. Never heard of the writer. I saw this on Libby and I was like, this looks kind of interesting. So I read it. Here's the synopsis. Good girls keep quiet. Quiet girls won't stay silent forever. When Alex arrives in Provincetown to patch things up with his new wife, he finds an empty wine glass in the sink, her wedding ring on the desk, and a string of questions in her wake. The police believe that Alex's wife simply left, his marriage crumbling before it truly began. But what Alex finds in their empty cottage points him toward a different reality. His wife has always carried a secret, and now she's disappeared. In his hunt for the truth, Alex comes across Layla, a young woman with information to share who may hold the key to everything his wife has kept hidden. A girl without a clear recollection of her own past. A strange, quiet girl whose memories may break them all. To find his wife, Alex must face what Layla has forgotten, and the consequences are anything but quiet. So that makes it sound like he's actually speaking with this girl named Layla in the story.
Yeah.
Layla is his wife as a young woman. She suffers from this thing called a fugue. F-U-G.
Oh, a fugue state? I've heard of that.
Yeah. She suffered from that when she was like 18 or 19 years old and disappeared for like 4 or 5 months and had no idea what had happened during those months when she finally like came to.
Uh-huh.
I will say, trigger warning, holy Jesus, sexual assault. The book talked a lot about that, and nowhere in this review, in this synopsis, did it say anything about it. And I will say, I really wish books would just preface things with that.
Yeah.
Like, I do gravitate towards those books. It's just a thing. I still give it 5 stars because, wow, what a journey, what a ride this was. Again, like, husband is very invested in the case. I feel like he's getting more answers than the actual investigators because they're just like, your wife has disappeared. Like, she was stressed. She left on her own. Like, give it up kind of thing. And he's like, no, I refuse to believe that. So she's a writer and she writes smut books.
It's a third writer in all of these books.
Yeah, she's a smut writer. She writes romance. And he gets a phone call from someone at her publication house who was like, I can't tell you more than this, but meet me at this location. I feel like your wife did not disappear on her own. Here's why. And she hands over a manuscript that she's written that is about her life as a young child, about this girl, Layla. The book is sad, but also very suspenseful. I really enjoyed it. I read it in a day. Just because I felt like I had to know what was happening. I think you would really like it.
Okay.
I think if you like suspense and you like thriller and that whole storyline won't throw you off, it's definitely a worthy read. And I want to look up this author because I've never heard of him or her, never seen this book anywhere before, but it was really good. What are you reading now?
Well, so apparently I'm gonna finish reading Malibu Rising.
I'm currently reading The Shining.
Oh, yeah.
I saw the movie once as an 18-year-old with Mike, actually, in my dorm room. The book, wow, does it go into so much more detail, so much more backstory. But as I'm reading it, I'm already scared. I'm only like 15% of the way through. It's a massive book. Excuse me, I think it's like 700 pages.
Oh, wow.
But I can see why Stephen King gets the reputation that he has for A, being an excellent writer, and for B, writing scary shit. Like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
as I'm reading it and I'm reading about the main character, all I can picture is Jack Nicholson. I feel like this book was written for him to portray this person in the movie.
Sometimes I actually like that when you watch a movie first and then read the book, is that, I mean, you don't have to do all the hard work of like making up a character's exterior.
Yeah, that's true.
You get to just,
excellent casting.
You get to just be like, oh, it's Jack Nicholson.
It is Jack Nicholson. I don't know, like even when he describes like the sly like smile on his mouth, I can picture Jack Nicholson. I don't know, he just plays those really creepy roles like the Joker and stuff.
I can never figure out if he's actually a good person or if he probably is awful.
I mean, he said that movie fucked him up.
But sometimes I think he might actually be like a creepy old man.
He might be. But yeah, that's what I'm reading right now, and it's great. But I feel like if it gets too late at night, I'm like, I don't want to read this. I'm scared. I mean, on Friends, that's why Joey puts the book in the freezer, because he's like, I can't look at this anymore. I gotta put The Shining in the freezer.
Well, then you just have to watch TikTok for like 20 minutes and then you can go to bed.
Refresh my mind. Yeah, so those were the things we were reading. Please let us know what you're reading or what's on your to-be-read list. I have a really big to-be-read pile.
I don't, actually. I will say I went through and I requested so many books from the library, and then I fell out of love of reading, and so I actually had to go. I just went in and canceled them finally because I kept getting notifications that they were ready to pick up, and I had a lot of guilt because I wasn't picking them up, so then they were going to sit there for however many days
no one else could read them.
So I went through and I canceled them all, but I am going to be going through and adding more. So if you have recommendations, I would love them, because I'll probably just go on and request them right then. But
I have 3 mysteries that I've been saving for this time of year. Because the new Riley Sager, I have that. I love Riley Sager. If you're looking for good spooky reads, that's a good one.
Spooky. So,
you're on Goodreads.
I'm on Goodreads, OTM Caitlin.
OTM Danielle.
So follow us, join us, be friends, and then watch our last video.
Watch our next video.
Watch all the videos.
We have several book videos like this that I will try to remember to leave links to in the description box. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, snakes. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Goodreads, Venmo,
We love
Poshmark. That's it.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of discount codes in the videos. We always try and put them in the description box, so go ahead and watch all the videos. Anytime we mention a sponsored post, the link's down there, and it helps.
100%.
Oh, I just realized. Oh no, okay. For some reason it looked lower in the camera just now than I thought it was. Like, I think I had my tits out this whole time.
That will be good for views.
For sure.
Okay, we love you.
Love
and
you.
We'll see you in the next one.
Cut it. I'm not gonna do it.
I did it.
It's really hard.